The silence before the storm. The vast command bridge of the Corinthian worldship Eternal Conquest hummed with the energy of 1,000 active systems. Supreme Commander Zareth stood before the central holographic display, his crystalline form reflecting the azure light of tactical readouts. For 3,000 years, the Corinthian Empire had swept across the galaxy like an unstoppable tide, clinging world after world, species after species. Now, their scanners had locked onto a new target. "Analysis complete, Commander," announced Science Officer Thylos, her melodic voice carrying across the bridge. The third planet of this yellow star system shows clear signatures of intelligent life. Designation: Earth. Inhabitants: humans. Technology level: pre-galactic, estimated type 0.7 civilization. Zareth's four eyes narrowed as he studied the data streams flowing across the display. The blue-green world rotated serenely, unaware of the attention it had drawn. Population density: approximately 8 billion individuals, Commander. They've achieved nuclear fission, basic spaceflight, and primitive quantum computing. No evidence of faster-than-light capability or energy shields. The commander's crystalline skin shifted to a deeper blue, indicating satisfaction. Another easy conquest. Begin standard invasion protocols. How long until the fleet is in position? 17 solar cycles, Commander. Zareth turned to his Council of War, 12 of the Empire's finest strategic minds. Prepare invasion scenarios. We'll follow standard procedure. Demonstrate overwhelming force, demand surrender, then integrate survivors into the Empire's labor force. The Council members exchanged knowing glances. They had executed this plan countless times before. No species could resist the might of the Corinthian Empire. Their technology was millennia ahead of most civilizations they encountered, and Earth appeared to be no exception. As the massive fleet began its approach, hidden behind the gas giant the humans called Jupiter, standard reconnaissance protocols were initiated. Thousands of microprobes, each no larger than a grain of sand, dispersed throughout Earth's information networks, gathering data on human society, military capabilities, and communication systems. 3 days into the operation, something unusual happened. "Commander, we've intercepted a transmission," reported communications specialist Valen, his tone carrying an edge of confusion. "It's not recent. The signal originated from Earth approximately 50 of their years ago." Zareth's attention shifted from the tactical displays. "Military communications?" "No, sir. It's a message. Broadcast into deep space using primitive radio waves. We nearly missed it among the background radiation." The commander's curiosity was piqued. In all their conquests, they had never encountered a species that actively broadcast messages into the void. Most civilizations tried to hide their presence, fearing exactly what was now happening to Earth. "Display the message." The holographic projector activated, filling the air with a complex pattern of signals. Mathematical equations flowed across the display, followed by what appeared to be chemical formulas and biological data. Then came images, a man and woman, anatomical diagrams, depictions of DNA structure, and representations of Earth's position in the solar system. They're introducing themselves," Valen said, astonishment clear in his voice. "This is a greeting. They've included their genetic code, their location, samples of their languages, even their music." The bridge fell silent as the transmitted music played. Strange, alien harmonies filled the air, unlike anything in the Corinthian cultural archives. It was primitive by their standards, yet it carried something indefinable, something that made several officers unconsciously lean forward. "There's more, Commander," Valen continued. "The message includes mathematical proofs, universal constants, and what appears to be their attempts at philosophical concepts. They're trying to establish common ground with whoever might receive this." Zareth's crystalline form flickered, a sign of deep thought. "They know they're not alone in the universe." "It appears so, sir, and they're actively seeking contact." War Counselor Nexus stepped forward, her aged form crackling with energy. This is unprecedented. Every species we've encountered has either been ignorant of the greater galaxy or actively hiding from it. These humans, she paused, studying the data. They're calling out to us. To anyone. They're not afraid. Primitive naivety, dismissed Tactical Officer Kryn. They don't understand the dangers of the universe. Once they see our fleet, they'll react like all the others. Fear, panic, surrender. But as the days passed and more data flowed in from the reconnaissance probes, a disturbing picture began to emerge. The humans had not only sent one message into space, they had sent hundreds, each from different nations, different organizations, even individuals. Some contained greetings of peace, others warnings, and still others invitations to cultural exchange. Moreover, their entertainment media was filled with depictions of alien contact. The reconnaissance AI reported millions of stories, films, and simulations where humans imagined meeting other species. In a concerning number of these scenarios, humans fought against technologically superior invaders and somehow prevailed. "Commander, you need to see this," called intelligence analyst Mora, her voice tight with concern. She gestured to a new data stream on the secondary display. These are historical military records from the past century of human civilization. The display filled with images that made even the battle-hardened Corinthians pause. Mushroom clouds rising over cities, footage of humans deploying chemical weapons against other humans, mass graves, genocides, 2 global wars that had consumed millions of lives. "They've developed planet-killer weapons," Mora continued, "and they've used them on themselves. They possess enough nuclear armaments to render their entire world uninhabitable several times over." Zareth studied the data, his form shifting to a troubled amber. Typical for a primitive species, they'll destroy themselves before achieving interstellar travel. "That's just it, sir. They developed these weapons over 70 years ago. Since then, they've created elaborate systems to prevent their use, while simultaneously stockpiling even more powerful armaments. They call it mutually assured destruction. They've literally held a knife to their own throat for generations as a peacekeeping measure." The bridge fell into uneasy silence. The Corinthians had conquered peaceful species and warlike ones, advanced civilizations, and primitive tribes. But they had never encountered a species that had achieved the capability of self-annihilation and then chose to live in that shadow by choice. "There's something else," added Valen, his voice barely above a whisper. "The original message we intercepted. It was sent out during the height of their nuclear tensions. While they were quite literally one error away from extinction, they were simultaneously reaching out to the stars with messages of hope and curiosity." Zareth moved closer to the display, studying the human message with new eyes. The mathematical proofs, the music, the biological data, it all took on a different meaning now. This wasn't the naive greeting of a species unaware of danger. This was the deliberate choice of a species that understood death intimately and chose hope anyway. "Compile everything," the commander ordered. "I want a complete psychological profile of these humans. Their wars, their messages, their art, their philosophy. Everything." As his officers worked, Zareth found himself drawn back to the original message, playing the human music again. There was something in those primitive harmonies, something that spoke of a species unlike any they had encountered. They were violent yet hopeful, primitive yet ambitious, divided yet united in their reach for the stars. For the first time, in 3,000 years of conquest, Supreme Commander Zareth of the Corinthian Empire wondered if they had finally found something they didn't understand. The Eternal Conquest maintained its position behind Jupiter, its crew working feverishly to comprehend the paradox that was humanity. As data continued to pour in, one thing became increasingly clear. Earth was not just another conquest. It was a puzzle wrapped in an enigma, broadcasting a message of hope from a species that had stared into the abyss and chosen to sing instead of surrender. The decision that changed everything. The emergency summit convened in the Great Chamber of the Eternal Conquest, a vast spherical room that could project any environment from across the Empire. Today, it displayed Earth in all its contradiction, cities gleaming with lights beside scarred battlefields, rockets reaching for the stars while nuclear silos waited underground, children playing in parks shadowed by monuments to the fallen. Supreme Commander Zareth stood at the center, surrounded by holographic displays showing the culmination of their analysis. The Empire's greatest minds had spent days dissecting human nature, and their conclusions were troubling. Honored counselors, Zareth began, his crystalline form pulsing with controlled energy. We face an unprecedented situation. Our analysis of the human species has revealed anomalies that challenge our fundamental understanding of galactic civilization. War Master Kryn stepped forward, his battle-scarred form radiating skepticism. Commander, with respect, they remain a primitive species. Their weapons are crude, their ships can barely reach their own moon. Why do we hesitate? Because, interrupted Chief Psychologist Lyra, her ethereal form shimmering with data patterns, they are psychologically unlike any species we've encountered. Our models cannot predict their behavior with any certainty. She gestured, and the chamber filled with comparative analyses. Every species we've conquered followed predictable patterns. They developed technology progressively, achieved global unity before attempting space travel, and either hid from or remained ignorant of the greater galaxy. Humans have done none of these things. The displays shifted, showing Earth's chaotic history. They developed nuclear weapons before establishing a unified planetary government. They've been actively broadcasting their location into space while simultaneously preparing for alien invasion. They create detailed scenarios of fighting superior civilizations and winning through methods our tactical computers classify as insane. Science Director Thylos added her own concerns. Their physical nature is equally paradoxical. They evolved on a death world with extreme seasonal variations, predators, diseases, and natural disasters. Yet instead of developing protective adaptations, they remained fragile and chose to adapt their environment instead. They're persistent hunters who can run prey to exhaustion, yet they also create art and music of surprising complexity. The chamber buzzed with debate as the implications sank in. The Korethian Empire had built its success on understanding and predicting enemy behavior. Humans defied prediction. "Show them the simulations," Zareth commanded. The chamber darkened, and tactical projections filled the space. In scenario after scenario, human reactions to invasion varied wildly. Some showed surrender, others fierce resistance. But the most concerning simulations showed humans employing tactics no sane species would consider. In 17% of scenarios, reported the tactical AI, humans deploy their nuclear arsenal against their own cities to deny resources to invaders. In 12%, they attempt to ram their primitive spacecraft into our vessels as kinetic weapons. In 8%, they deliberately destroy their own planet's ecosystem rather than see it conquered. War Counselor Nexus studied the projections with growing alarm. They're not just willing to die fighting. They're willing to ensure mutual annihilation. It's as if the concept of surrender exists alongside the concept of total war in their psychology. That's precisely the point, Lyra interjected. Human psychology operates on multiple contradictory principles simultaneously. They call it cognitive dissonance, and they've not only adapted to it, but seem to thrive on it. They can hold hope for peaceful contact while preparing for total war. They can love their families intensely while being willing to sacrifice everything in abstract ideals. The discussion shifted to the intercepted message, the transmission that had started this entire debate. "Consider the timing," urged cultural analyst Zine. They sent messages of peace into space while locked in a nuclear standoff that could have ended their civilization. They included their location, their biology, and their culture. It's either supreme confidence or incredible clairvoyance. Or both, Zareth said quietly, drawing all attention. Our xenopsychologists believe humans operate on what they call optimal pessimism. They prepare for the worst while hoping for the best. They've imagined every possible form of alien contact, from beneficial to hostile, and they've psychologically prepared for all of them. The commander gestured, and new data filled the chamber. Look at their fiction, their entertainment. They've spent over a century imagining alien invasions. They've explored every scenario, every possibility. When we arrive, we won't be their first contact. We'll be the actualization of something they've rehearsed in their collective imagination thousands of times. You speak as if this gives them an advantage, Kryn protested. Their weapons remain primitive. Do they? Zareth countered. They've had nuclear weapons for less than a century, and already their stockpile could crack continents. They're experimenting with antimatter, developing quantum computers, and have theoretical frameworks for weapons we took millennia to develop. Their technological advancement isn't linear, it's exponential. The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. Humanity's rate of technological development was unlike anything in Corethian records. Most species took thousands of years to progress from nuclear fission to interstellar travel. Humans had achieved spaceflight merely decades after splitting the atom. There's something else, added Intelligence Director Voss, his form flickering with urgency. We've analyzed their global communications over the past several days. They've detected our gravitational anomalies. They know something is happening in their outer solar system. The Council turned their attention to real-time Earth communications. Instead of panic, they found something else entirely. Scientific excitement, military preparation, and surprisingly, diplomatic committees forming to discuss potential first contact protocols. They're not certain we're here, Voss continued, but they're preparing as if we are. Military forces are quietly mobilizing, but so are peace delegations. They're simultaneously preparing welcome ceremonies and defensive strategies. Ancient Counselor Thane, who had witnessed the conquest of 100 worlds, spoke for the first time. In all our history, we've never encountered this. Fear, yes. Ignorance, often. But this simultaneous preparation for both peace and war. This active seeking of contact while preparing for invasion. It suggests a species that has evolved beyond simple survival instincts. The debate raged for hours. Traditional voices called for immediate invasion, arguing that human unpredictability made them dangerous. Others suggested that the very qualities that made humans concerning also made them potentially valuable allies. Finally, Zareth called for silence. His next words would echo through Corethian history. For 3 millennia, we have expanded through conquest. We have added countless species to our empire, always as subjects, never as equals. But perhaps we have finally found something different. He gestured to the human message still playing in the background. They sent this into the void not knowing who would receive it. They included their weaknesses alongside their strengths, their location despite the dangers. This is not the action of prey or predator. This is the action of a species seeking peers. The commander's form shifted to a deep purple, the color of momentous decision. I propose we respond to their message, not with invasion, but with communication. Let us see what happens when the Corethian Empire chooses dialogue over domination. The chamber erupted in debate. Some called it wisdom, others weakness. But as the council voted, a historic majority emerged in favor of contact over conquest. As the great world ship began its withdrawal from the solar system, a new message was prepared. For the first time in their history, the Corethians would announce themselves not as conquerors, but as respondents to an invitation sent into the cosmos. Back on Earth, astronomers detected the gravitational anomalies departure. In control rooms and observatories around the world, humans wondered what had been watching them from the darkness. As they prepared their next transmission into the void, they remained unaware that their simple message of greeting had just changed the course of galactic history. The Corethian Empire, masters of 1,000 worlds, had been stopped not by weapons or shields, but by a species paradoxical enough to threaten destruction while broadcasting hope, to prepare for war while extending hands in greeting. In the vast expanse of space, Two civilizations stood at the threshold of something unprecedented. The humans continued their dual preparation for contact and conflict, while the Corethians grappled with a concept they had never before considered, the possibility that some species were too interesting to conquer. The message that had stopped an empire cold continued its journey through the cosmos, carrying with it the essence of humanity. Violent yet peaceful, primitive yet ambitious, divided yet united in their reach for the stars. And in that contradiction lay a power greater than any weapon, the power to make an empire question everything it thought it knew about the universe. As Earth turned on its axis, unaware of how close it had come to conquest, and the Corethian fleet retreated to debate this unprecedented encounter, the galaxy itself seemed to hold its breath. For in this moment, a new possibility had been born, the chance that among the stars, understanding might prove mightier than dominion. The future remained unwritten, but one thing was certain: the universe would never be quite the same.